Hi to everybody, welcome to the Discover Cork Schools Heritage Project 2023 to 2024. My name is Kieran McCarthy. I am the Lord Mayor of Cork for the next year, but I also run this programme called Discover Cork Schools Heritage Project, so you're very, very welcome to it. So I think many of you who are listening to this, you've already chosen your projects to do, so it will be very, very important that you choose a project that you want to do some work on. That would be very, very important. As well as that, whatever topic you pick, make sure you can have a little bit of fun with. I want to start with this particular slide. This is actually an image of the National Monument on the Grand Parade. And I think my reason for showing this to begin with is that we're very, very blessed with different heritage corners in Cork. There's always kind of different angles and different views. So whatever your topic is, make sure you come up with maybe 3 or 4 kind of little chapter, different 3 or 4 kind of different perspectives, an angle on your topic. So this particular picture, for example, it has the National Monument on the right. You can see there's lamp standers that have been put in the last 20 years, which represent the old masts of ships that were able to sail up the Grand Parade. You also see there's signage on the left saying a city remembers. You'll see there's a bridge on the left. You'll also see there's a bench in the foreground. So you could also kind of create a trail around some of your sites as well, so that's important. You could also maybe find some old photographs. So this is I suppose the same angle, but 100 years ago. And you can see the National Monument is still there in 1906. But no, there's no bridge, and the lights are very, very different. So you could do a now and then project if you wish. You'll also see kind of just left of centre, there's an electric tram. We had electric trams in Cork way back 100 years ago. But whatever topic you pick, you're telling a true and a great story. And it's very, very important that, yes, your project is about recording information from the past, but you do think about your topic, and you look at your topic from different angles. When I say 3 or 4 chapters, and then I'm maybe imagining what life was like in the past as well. You've entered a project that's a citywide project. There's usually 25 schools involved every year and 1,000 students. This year's theme is Why Stories Matter. So there is a prize for those students who have a project with a title maybe Why Stories Matter, and then maybe a subtopic like St. Patrick's Street or the story of my guardian or grandfather or grandmother, something like that. So Why Stories Matter. There are prizes for best projects, so keep that in mind. How is it supposed to be put together? So just here on the right of the slide, an A4 booklet or an A3 scrapbook. You must have an introduction. You must have a middle section with 3 or 4 sections or chapters. So make sure you have information on your topic and pictures and sketches, and your project book must have an end. I'm not looking for a project as such that is full of text. It has to have a balance of a little bit of writing, a little bit of pictures, and a few sketches kind of drawn in as well. And I'll show you examples of that over the next kind of few minutes. I do encourage people to use different sources to get information. I have no doubt that all of you will go online to find information on Cork history. But I need to tell you, like, not all of Cork history is online. Maybe like 5% is online, and some of you might discover my own website, corkheritage.ie. Now, the reason I mention the web as well, make sure whatever information you take from whatever source, that whatever you write in your project is in your own words. I'm not looking for long sentences or complicated sentences. I'm looking for you to enjoy your project and create something that's kind of a colourful and creative piece of work. I do encourage people to go to the library, so local libraries, and the city library in town, for example, has a massive local studies section, and they've got loads and loads of old books. I do encourage people to go on fieldwork or visit your site. And there's certainly a lot of heritage centres kind of around the city and old churches that can be visited, so make sure you go with a guardian and keep safe. I do encourage people to have a look out for any old plaques or old documents, old newspapers. Perhaps you might like to do a short interview with somebody that you know who knows something about your topic. So come at your topic from different angles, and also, as I say, have 3 or 4 chapters as well. In terms of collecting information, do take the time to do your research. Do create a basic storyline. Plan out what your chapters are going to be. What's going to appear in each page. Just on the right to fieldwork. Visit your site if it's safe to do so, but the sooner the better. You can see at this moment in time, we're kind of getting into autumn and the weather is changing. Do take a camera and do use it, and do print out some of the photographs that you might take. Or if you can't print out the photographs, draw maybe a few sketches of what you actually saw on your journey and your fieldwork. One of your chapters could actually be a chapter on your fieldwork itself or your visit to a particular site. So keep that in the back of your mind. I generally don't mind what's in your project book, but these 5 things are really, really important to me. So your project needs to have a design. It needs to be creative. It needs to have your imagination. It needs to have your opinion, and you need to actually show your work to people. And I want to kind of just go very briefly into each one of these 5 and kind of show you exactly what I mean. In terms of design, I'm a really firm believer that the world is a colourful place, and if you did go back in a time machine into Cork's past 100 years ago, you're certainly not going into a world that's black and white. It's a colourful world. They had their own challenges, whether it's 100 years ago, 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. But your project book, you're challenged to bring the story alive. So do experiment with the overall design and plan of your project. At the end of the day, it's your work. This is a page that I got last year. You can see on the slide here, kind of just in the centre to the right. It's actually on the bridges of Cork, and you can see there's not an enormous amount of writing actually on this, but there's loads of kind of different images and before and after pictures, and keep that at the back of your mind. I'm not looking for reams of writing. I am looking for something that shows that you enjoyed your topic and you explored your topic. These are a few other pages. I do need a contents page there in the top left. In the bottom left, there's 2 project pages. Has a lot of writing in it. Not necessarily looking for loads of writing, but make sure your project book is well laid out. Create something that people want to turn the pages to explore more of the topic that you're presenting. In the top right, every now and again, I do get project books that are like heritage trails or history trails that someone could use to walk around an area. Keep in mind, one of your foci or your focus points could be on natural heritage. So you could create a mixture of like a history and a nature trail if you want to. And then in the bottom right then is our maps. Don't assume the reader of your project knows where you're talking about. I've got different judges, and some judges are from Cork and some judges are from elsewhere. So do throw in a few sketch maps every now and here or there, kind of showing where some of your sites actually are. This is just another kind of 2 pages. You can see it's a mixture of kind of pictures, and then there's a little bit of writing. I don't mind if your project book is handwritten or typed. It's entirely up to yourself. But make sure your handwriting is neat, and make sure as well the typing is that the reader of your project, the judge of your project, can actually read your work as well. So don't put all the type faced or the print itself in small letters. Spread out your work. These are a few other pages, just in the top left. Sometimes I get project books, and some of the pages look like old pages. So in terms of tea staining, coffee staining. Sometimes I get project books on art work or sculpture. So on the top right is a sculpture in the Lee Fields. So keep that in the back of your mind. You might be kind of doing a heritage trail, and all of a sudden you see a sculpture. That can also go into your project book. The bottom left, over the years as well, I've got some really great project books on female historical characters and male historical characters. So you can see there in the bottom left, 100 Years of Women's Rights. And then actually in the bottom right, sometimes I get project books on songs and ballads and poetry of Cork City, and that was something that I got a few years ago in the bottom right. So that's like design. Make sure your project is colourful. That's kind of number 1. Number 2 is that your project book needs to have creativity actually in it. And so for this section, you'll have to choose one of 2 creative methods. So one, either A, make a model on an aspect of your project, or B, make a short film. I have found over the years that those in secondary school kind of make the short film, and in primary school I get a lot of kind of models, but it's entirely up to yourself. If you've entered this project for the second time, if you did the model last year, perhaps you'd like to do the film this year, or if you did the film last year, you want to do the model this year. Models can be, let me just start with the models. Models can be big or small. It's kind of entirely up to yourself, but make sure you put a bit of effort into the model. Make sure it kind of somewhat looks like what you're trying to research. I'll give you a few examples of what I mean by that. This is a model of Blackrock Castle. It's made out of cardboard, Pringles boxes, and so on and so forth. It is a basic model. When I got it a few years ago, and I really liked it. Sometimes I get models kind of made out of clay. Sometimes I get models made out of little pieces of timber. I find as well over the years people get a hand with some of their models as well. So when I say a hand now, I mean I wouldn't like you to go to a Guardian and kind of say, well, I want you to make the model for me. Like, it's a collaboration project. I always feel with the school's heritage project that for each person working on the project, there's probably another 4 or 5 people working in the background, kind of supporting, helping, everything from helping getting materials to helping with the writing to just general support and supportive ideas as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. This is a model I got a few years ago, which went way beyond the point of duty. And this is a model of the shaky bridge, just made of lollipop sticks. I'm open to any kind of materials. Now, if they'd just given me actually just one of the towers, I actually would have been very, very happy with their project model. But this is kind of what they gave, and I really, really liked it. This is another model I got a few years ago, which I also really liked, and I kind of show every year. Sometimes you can make models out of natural materials. This is actually materials found in a graveyard, and the project book actually was on a graveyard. So it's kind of very, very clever as well. So it was actually materials from a graveyard, and the project book was on the graveyard they found the materials in. Sometimes I get maybe abstract models a little bit. This is a board game I got 2 or 3 years ago, and actually the last few years I'm getting kind of more and more board games. Sometimes as well I get, this is actually called Don't Lose Your Head. It's a board game to do with Elizabeth Fort off Barrack Street, a 400-year-old fort that is still there to walk around the ramparts. I really, really like what they were trying to do. And sometimes I get models that are kind of like our sculptures or kind of sketches into old pieces of wood and elements like that. And more actually in the primary school sector, I'm getting Minecraft. This is a Minecraft model of the Crawford Art Gallery, and actually some of the Minecraft models I'm getting, I'm also kind of getting a tour of the Minecraft model itself. So you're going to have to find a way to put the tour of the Minecraft model or the film of the Minecraft actually onto some sort of memory stick, and then kind of submit that within your project book. Whether or which, if you do the model, make sure that you take photographs of the model kind of being built. So maybe take a photograph of the model in its early days, and then take a photograph of the model towards the end. This is actually a model of a lovely clay cottage, and eventually they put a straw roof on this. The reason being is that you won't be able to hand up the model with your project book. Because I unfortunately can't store over 200 models in my house. But what I can say to you is that please just put photographs of your model into your project book. You can have a section or a chapter called My Model, and then we have a few sentences on how you made it and how long it took you, and so on. If you go for the film, it could entail interviewing someone or being a reporter yourself. You could stage a reenactment, act something out for the past, but very much for this section, you need to find someone with a camera and ability to put the work on a memory stick or put it on YouTube. Film should not be longer than 5 minutes, so don't create something that's 2.5 hours long. I'm just thinking like for something like 3-4 minutes. Think about using a smartphone film app to splice together different images and videos. And if you are interviewing someone, so your video could just be you interviewing somebody if you wish, be prepared. Make sure the technology is working. Start with easy questions. Get the person talking, be open, listen, and be patient. Be sure, though, you get the story you need. Write out some of the points the person made. And I have here stay socially distant, but that's actually from the COVID years. But write out some of the points the person made. So if someone speaks to you for 10 minutes, half an hour, you don't have to write out everything the person said, just the top 10 points perhaps they actually made, or the top 5 points. Like what were they trying to say to you? And whoever helps you with your project book, so if you do end up interviewing somebody, you can take their photograph, put their photograph into your project book. This is a lady called Mary in this particular, from a project page from a few years ago, and Mary kind of made it into someone's project book, and she was really, really delighted that she actually kind of made it into someone's project book. So that's kind of like second section. So point number 1, your project book needs to be colourful. Point number 2 is that your project needs to be creative, have a model or a film. Point number 3 is that you need to have imagination in your project, and for this your project needs, for me this means some sort of commentary on time, a kind of before and after page. So before and after section or page, your work needs to involve reimagining what life may have been like in the past. So on one page perhaps you might show what life is like today, and then actually on another page you actually might show what life is like back then. So it kind of something like this. The imagination page could be called Imagining the Past or Now and Then. So this has to be kind of a chapter in your project book, and you can talk about anything you want. The changing nature of technology, education, housing, fashion, roads, music, schooling, how communications on mobile phones have changed, and so on. And so on one side you kind of describe in the past, and on the other side you kind of describe now. So if you are looking at Cork 100 years ago, then it would be Cork in 1923 on one side of a page, then Cork in 2023 on the other side of the page. If you're doing a heritage centre, and you know the heritage centre opened in the early 1800s, so it's life 200 years ago versus life today. So make sure you have an imagination page or pages kind of in your project book. So what I call a then and now page. The fourth thing that you need to have is opinion. So it's your project. Your opinion is important. What do you think of what you're researching? Is the story important to tell in your neighbourhood, in your community, in your family, and the reasons why? So if you are studying a building or a place, or you're kind of recording an old folklore story, if that story was taken away in the morning, or if that building or place was taken away in the morning, would it matter? And so you need to have a think about that as you're researching your project. If the story disappeared in the morning, would it matter, and why? And have a few sentences on that. You can pop up in just one page, like called opinion page, or you can actually kind of pop up as a speech blurb kind of across some of your project pages as well if you want to. In the past, I've had people who have created imaginary characters to lead people through their project book. So if you're not happy kind of using your own voice, you can certainly perhaps use an imaginary character, but I'll leave that entirely up to yourself. So yeah, point number 4 is that I need to see your opinion, and point number 5 is that you need to get publicity for your work. So if you just show your work to other classes, fantastic, or have some sort of a school display, fantastic. But the more you kind of push out the boat with your project, the better. So there's no point you doing all this hard work for weeks on end all the way to just before Christmas and no one sees your work. I mean, otherwise, so you need to just pass on the story. And of course, that was one of the messages that I gave to many of the students, including some of yourselves that I've met over the weeks. Make sure you pass on the story that you've learned about. Otherwise, the story will just pass away and nobody will hear about it. So make sure that you maximise the effort in actually showcasing your story. This is just another page. You could do a display in a school. There could be a local newspaper section. You could put something into the local newspaper, write a letter to the editor. I don't know, put something in a local church newsletter, something to do with a local community centre, local credit union, old folks home. You could go back, you could go to another school giving a presentation, as the students here in the top left did a few years ago. You could put something on your school website. You could put something into, you could create your own website if you want to. Sometimes schools have their own school newsletter kind of around Christmas time. It's ideal around Christmas time to kind of do publicity as well. In terms of publicity though, you would have to have 1 or 2 pictures within your project book showing the publicity. So these are just pictures of people reading the project book. You could have a visitors page if you want to, and then you can encourage someone to sign your project book, but also ask them to put in a couple of comments on what they think of the topic. I have no doubt they'll say your project book is brilliant, but I kind of ask them what do they think about the topic. So you're kind of getting someone else's perspective as well on your project book. So, dear students, there's a lot there that I've actually thrown at you. So here are my last 2 slides. You do need a beginning and a middle and an end with sections or chapters, and you need to thread them together, these kind of different chapters, so 3 or 4 chapters. Your project book though needs to be colourful. It needs to be creative, have a model or a film. You need some sort of now and then section. You need some sort of an opinion section, and you do need to show your work to people. Now, people have asked me in the past, Kieran, what happens if you just hand up a black and white project? And I kind of go, well, I'm not really looking for a black and white project. I'm looking for something with these 5 elements. So you can see there are percentages that are given to the colour, creativity, imagination, opinion, publicity. So if you don't give kind of a now and then page, then you kind of lose the 30% or if it's not colourful. But overall, the judges read the projects in the round. So if a project book is colourful and creative and has a bit of fun in it, and we can see the student's voice in it, then you kind of be in the prize mix. But for me, it's not just about prizes, just to get about you kind of exploring the city and the region, having a bit of fun doing that. So here is my last slide, and I call it Plan, Build and Enjoy, PBE. So this is kind of perhaps what it might look like. So these boxes here, these rectangles, they kind of showcase perhaps different project pages. So you can see there page 1 is a title page, page 2 is some sort of a contents page. Then you can see section 1, chapter 1, the first thing you want to talk about, and there's information and drawing, and then information and a picture. Chapter 2, the next next part of the story you want. And then there could be a chapter 3, a chapter 4, how we made the model in the film, or fieldwork, or visit pages, or opinion page, or now and then page, publicity, end and conclusions. The project book will generally come in around just around the 20-page mark if you do it in a minimum sense. And that's not 20 pages full of writing, that's 20 pages full of photographs and sketches and things that you've kind of collected, your thoughts and so on. So please, please, please use this kind of plan, build and enjoy element for your project book. So dear students, that is just my presentation to you. If you have any questions, by all means ask your teacher, who can actually get in contact with me. I'm very much open to what topic you want to choose on Cork history, but for me, please be colourful and creative and have a little bit of fun with it. And I really, really look forward to reading all the project books kind of just before Christmas and kind of early in the new year. So the submission date is just before Christmas, so ask your teacher about that. Very best of luck, and please enjoy your journey with the Discover Cork Schools Heritage Project. Thanks to all.